Hi, and welcome to the Breakthrough Emotional Eating podcast. My name is Kristen Jones, and thank you so much for joining me this week. Y'all, I think people think that when you do a podcast that you actually really like to talk. Yeah, I don't. I do not like to talk. I do not like to be the person who has to do all the talking when it comes to my podcast. I love having a guest, and I have an amazing guest today. I'm so excited. To have Sarah Earl on as my podcast guest. And Sarah is a member in the Breakthrough membership. And she has just, y'all, she's been on a journey and a half. And it has just been so cool to watch her, just watch her evolution, watch her own personal development, her own personal growth. And then we connected this past weekend, and she was just telling me some of the things that were going on. And I was like, girl, I need to get you on the podcast because you're just killing it. So that's where we are. So people, I hear stuff and I'm like, let's not even wait. Let's just get you on because I think it's something that people really need to hear. I think it is actually a very, very common question. And the question that I get asked quite frequently is, yeah, how long does this all take? Like, when does it really start to click? Like, when do you start to really get it? And then like things start changing in your life. And I have to tell you, I can't give an answer to that because I don't think everybody is different. I know for me, it was like, but I was working by myself. So I am the unicorn because I was doing all of this on my own. I was completely by myself, completely isolated, didn't have any sort of support. It was just me talking to me. That's exciting. And so I really didn't have any of that support. And so I think it's important to know that everybody is going to be different. But I wanted Sarah to be able to share kind of what her journey has been like, and then what that like light bulb, the Oprah aha moment, what that looked like for her, and how that and the impact that that's had on her life just in a very, very short period of time. So without further ado, welcome Sarah Earl to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for
Absolutely.
having me.
Oh, 100% love. Super happy that you could join us. So if you wouldn't mind telling the listeners and the viewers, because we are live on my personal profile on Facebook, would you mind telling the viewers and the listeners kind of just a little backstory of who you are, where you're from, and kind of where you were before you and I connected?
Yeah. I grew up in a family with 6 kids. All of us have weight issues, and including my parents. So that was my story. Growing up was that, everyone in my family struggles with weight. And I was definitely that person. I always struggled with weight, struggled with dieting. I did every diet under the sun. I did Nutrisystem. I did Slim Fast. I did, medication. I was even on, and I forgot about this until today, was even on a local TV channel, did a Biggest Loser competition. And I
Oh,
was on that.
wow.
This has been a battle for a long time. And then, just totally absorbed with the food all the time, obsessed with food. Like, one story that you shared that really resonated with me on your podcast was the donut story, how every Saturday you'd go get a donut, and it was
Mhm.
like your moment of the week, and
Oh.
I was like, oh yeah, I get her. She and I, yeah, we get each other. So it was
Absolutely.
like, and that was, that was it. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And so I started doing the anti-inflammatory diet, which that diet's very, very restrictive. It's like limited meat and limited vegetables, and like you can have oil and that's it, like no condiments. And so I did that for about a year and did not lose a single pound. And I was like, this doesn't even make sense. So I
Wow.
went to a nutritionist. I was with a nutritionist for 3 years. I went to, I had every blood work under the sun. I went to like, I forget what those doctors are that endocrinologist. I went to an
Mhm.
endocrinologist. They had no idea. I mean, no one had any idea. But I knew in the back of my mind that I had an emotional eating issue. So for a few years, I started researching and looking for solutions to emotional eating. I ordered books. I read the books and nothing really resonated with me. I started listening to a few podcasts. I even went on TikTok and found a few on TikTok. And then I found your podcast. And your podcast was the first podcast that introduced the brain. And it finally made sense to me. Like, that resonated. And it was like, yes, it is more than just, I can't stop eating and I'm hungry and, those kind of things. It was like, no, it's this, again, back to, it's this story that I've been telling. And so I started listening to your podcast, and like every single episode that I would listen to, I felt like I had that Oprah aha moment. It was like, okay, yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. Then I did the podcast, I think, for a few months, and even the membership on the Facebook group for a while. Not the paid one, just the free one, and did the few things that you have in there. And then I knew it was time to keep going and to move forward, and I didn't want to stay where I was, and so I paid for the membership, and it was literally the best decision I've ever made, and life-changing from that moment on.
Well, that's fabulous. And I love, and I think it's important to remember. I want people to know, like, Sarah really took her, I mean, she asked a lot of questions. She it wasn't like she just came in and was just like, okay, I'm just going to jump in. It was like, you were on podcasts, you asked me questions, we had lots of conversations in Messenger, and all prior to her actually joining the membership as well. How long ago, one other piece of information, how long ago did you have weight loss surgery?
I had it's been almost a year, which was actually the advice of the nutritionist. And funny enough, I was the fifth one in my immediate family to have it. And so it wasn't super like out of the box for me to get it. But after a couple months, I had the surgery, and I don't want that to minimize like my efforts.
Oh, no, not at all.
No, I know you don't. But there's a lot of people who hear, oh, you had weight loss surgery, then no wonder, no wonder this is so easy for you. But no, not at all. If anything, it just made me wake up to all of this, because and I've even met people who had weight loss surgery who said, it's so weird because I still have hunger. I still have the mind hunger, and I still have like the uncontrollable, I want to eat all day long. It's just less,
Right.
So
right. No, and I think it's a really important piece of it, because you came in and you had already, I think you lost almost 60 pounds.
Yeah.
But you had stalled out, and then and you had said that you were having issues, and you knew that it was more than just let me have surgery and then everything's going to be fine. And I love what you just said about the mind hunger, because that's exactly what it is. Because in I don't even want to say in theory, legitimately, there is a portion of the body that's turned off, where people who have weight loss surgery don't get the hormones that cause hunger. But we as human beings are so trained, and we have trained our brains to desire food, that it doesn't matter if that's turned off. I love that you call it brain hunger, and that's exactly what it is. And so I think that it's an important point too. It's an important point. And I think it's also an important point that how you had a little bit of a struggle when you first came into the membership. So, and I'm sorry, I continue to talk. You were going to say something.
No, I'm so excited that I just like keep being like, wait, Kristen, wait, and then this happened. But I was also worried I'd gain it back, and I didn't want that to happen. But I did stop. After like a few months. I lost the 60 pounds real quick. And then I stopped, and I was listening to one of your podcasts on my walk, and it hit me. I was the reason I'd stopped, because before I had the surgery, I kept saying to everyone, you know what, if I just get to this size, I'll be happy. And then I'll be happy. I just need to get to this one size. Well, then I got to that size, and guess what? I stopped. And so when I was listening to your podcast, it was like, I am doing this. I am creating this block for, how I need to open this up.
Yeah. So what, and again, you and I have had numerous conversations since you came into the membership. So what was happening? I mean, you came in, you were super excited, you were like gold star student, you were doing all the things, and and then there were some obstacles and there were some hurdles that you were having. And would you share with people kind of what went on when you first joined the membership, and then where kind of things got a little rocky, frankly.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm annoyingly positive. So my
Y'all,
kids,
she's just adorable. She's so cute, and she is positive. She's super positive. It's not annoying. I don't think it's annoying at all.
it annoys my kids a lot. But I was definitely in a position, and you and I, like you mentioned, we talked a lot about this. I was going through some hard things in life. And I mean, like
Mhm,
we all do, right?
mhm,
I was a single mom for 10 years. I was divorced, had 4 kids, and had some serious trauma. And look, I don't, there's a lot of, I don't care whose quote unquote fault it was of a divorce. Anyone who's been through a divorce has trauma. Like
right.
even if you hated their guts, you have
Yeah,
trauma.
sure.
And my kids had some serious trauma. And so it was hard for me. And I think as women, I don't know why we do this, but to kind of take that time to myself that
Mhm,
we need and that we was required. But really I learned that you can't heal anyone until you're healed. And
mhm,
so it was really important to me that I healed my children and that they were able to get out of their traumatic situations, but I couldn't do it until I was healed. And so
mhm,
a lot of the situations that you have in the classroom that we work on in the membership group was kind of, you see it in close up and you go through these experiences. And I had a friend that I was talking to about it, that I said, I know this is what's holding me back. I know this is where I'm at right now. I know this is a certain issue that I need to confront. And she would go, "That's so cool that you want to work on it." And I was like,
mhm,
well, of course I do. I want to get through it because the way the brain processes trauma is that it doesn't process trauma through rapid eye movement when you sleep because it's too painful.
mhm,
So that stays with you until you actually process it. So you have to process these things to
mhm,
move forward, to progress, and to
mhm.
get to the next point. And so, yeah, it's scary and it's terrifying, but you're going to be, anytime you think about it, it's going to be scary and terrifying. So why not think about it, get it over with, process it, take the
Mhm.
time that you need. And sometimes
Mm.
it's a long time.
Right,
And I have journals and journals. I did not journal until I joined your group, and now
right.
I just bought a new one. But it's like, working through these things are how you progress, and that's ultimately the goal, right? Is to
Mhm,
progress. So yeah, so I was going through some custody issues for I think about 3 years that I was going
mhm,
through some custody battle. And that was exhausting and difficult and challenging. And so that kind of created some barriers for me. Having the kids eat different is something that was a little bit tricky, but we were able to work on that. And my job and my career and things, those were some things that I had I switched jobs kind of during this whole process. So that was also a thing. I moved during this process
mhm.
and I got married during all of it. So there was
Right.
like all the top 3 stressors that you can have, I had in life. But I do have to say that 100%, I am 100% confident that being a member of the group and the tools that I learned helped me get through those situations way more effectively than I would have a year ago.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. And one thing I always want to preface when we talk about trauma and we talk about processing trauma, Sarah was able to do a lot of journaling on her own and working through a lot of her own things. It Yeah, absolutely. If Sarah had said like, God, I'm really struggling with this, I keep doing it, I can't seem to get past it. My thing is always to encourage people, if you need a guide to go through to process trauma, you need to see a therapist.
Yeah.
I am not a therapist. I am a
Mhm.
life coach, but I am not a therapist. And so I do have activities that make people kind of, activities that allow people to kind of dig into, and this is done independently, journaling and things like that. But when it comes to really needing to talk to somebody and to kind of walk yourself through those traumatic experiences, that's best done with a therapist. I do definitely have people that I work with who have already processed things in their past, but they're still presented with the food issues. I can deal with the food issues. I can deal with what your thoughts are presently. But when it comes to processing trauma, a therapist is really the best person. If you're not able to kind of do it if you're not able to do it yourself, you definitely can seek the help of a therapist. And if you need one, I know a fabulous one, so you can always message me. And because I think she's just amazing, so I would give her name out in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Which
but
I did use some
yeah.
therapy, and you did
Mhm.
encourage that. I will say
Yeah.
that you did encourage that, which I appreciate.
Absolutely. So you have all of these things going on. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that also, that because Sarah had weight loss surgery, that in and of itself causes and results in her having to change how she eat. That is just part and parcel of having weight loss surgery, is that you do have to change. Obviously you change the size and the amount of food that you eat, but it's amazing how that it still presents itself it still can present itself as an issue when it comes to sugar, and it comes to all the other things that they don't ask you to eat. I mean, they ask you to eat your protein and that sort of thing. But I just want to make sure that everybody understands that my program, what I do ask people to do is, eat what you love. Sarah having had weight loss surgery, she does have to be careful about the things that she eats because of the changes that were made to her digestive system. So she has, and I'm okay with anybody using it. People want to do any type of program, any type of food program that they want to do, that's totally fine. It's the thought work and the work on your brain. That's the stuff that's that's the meat and potatoes. The food stuff is really not that big of a deal. And in the membership, we always say it's not about the food, and it really isn't about the food. It's really more about like the thoughts that are going on in your head and how you're feeling about yourself, what you're thinking, the story that you're telling. I mean, you and I talked about, you and I talked numerous times about like the story that you had about yourself, and kind of how you knew months ago that was holding you back. And so it's exciting to know that kind of worked through. So let's fast forward to when kind of things started clicking for you.
Yay, this is the fun part. So yeah, it's funny because there were times when I was listening to your podcast, like 3 times. I like borderline stalker, Kristen. I'm sorry. I was, but I was like just listening to your podcast all the time. I was doing all these worksheets. And then there were times when I wasn't doing anything. I mean, there were a few days here and there where I just like, I just kind of was like, I think looking back, I think I was processing and like absorbing everything that was going on. But there were times though that like all day long, it's like all I did, So I kind of it's been quite a journey. But I think one thing that I've always been very fascinated with the brain. I kind of nerd out when it comes to the brain. In fact, I have like, for fun, I read neuroscience like books from school, so kind of a nerd that way. And I just I find it very fascinating. And one thing that I did was I also worked with kids with autism and did behavior therapy, which deals a lot with brain and reprogramming the brain. And one thing that I learned from that is that you celebrate the small successes. And you always say that, and I always heard that, but I never heard that until recently. And now I'm like, oh, now I get it. Okay. And another thing is that I didn't ever, as far as like the scale goes, I never measured my success by the scale. My success was always like measured to me anyway was, did I do the plan or did I not do the plan? And and some days I didn't, honestly, some days I didn't. And one thing I really appreciate about you is that you always made me accountable for my actions. And you did it in such a kind, supportive way. It was never like an accusatory or like, what the heck, are you really being honest? You just were like very kind and like okay, well, let's really look at this. Are you really doing it? Because everyone
Mhm.
says, oh, I tried all these diets. Well, now looking back, maybe I didn't exactly try all these diets. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And so that's one thing I really appreciate was being held accountable. And
Mhm.
now that's gone out to every aspect of my life. Um,
Mhm.
I Now I feel in control. I thought my food was I ate what I want when I wanted or whatever. And even after the surgery, if anything, the surgery made me more obsessive about food because you have to
Mm.
have a certain amount at a certain time, do this and
Mhm.
do that. And it was like all day long, all I thought about was food and I hated it. It was like
Mhm.
so stressful. And then it was, then I found your program and it was like, you write it down in the morning and then you're done. You don't have to obsess over it all day, which
Mhm.
is something that I really loved and appreciated too. And now I feel like, okay, now I have control over my food. My food is not controlling me,
Mhm.
which is something I thought was the exact opposit, So
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
kind of an interesting, but I think when it really clicked was a couple weeks ago. I had done the work where you envision, and I'd done this before, honestly, a few months ago, but I did this again where you write down like what you want to be,
Mhm.
and what it looks like and what it feels like.
Mhm.
So you're not just and honestly, there were a lot of times where like I didn't even know what it would look like or what it would feel like. I just,
Mhm.
I wasn't honest with myself either. Like I would say, oh, if I could be this size, that'd be kind of cool. But really, like my heart wants to be this other size. So I
Mhm.
wasn't because I didn't have the confidence that I could get there. Um,
Mhm.
I wasn't being honest with myself. So I really got honest with myself and was like, you know what? This is the size I want to be.
Mhm.
And this is what this looks like. And this is how I feel. And after that, I did a meditation, which is something that I also didn't really do before this program. But I really just like thought about and saw that person and went to the future,
Mhm. Mhm.
and saw what that person is like shopping, traveling, doing things, being confident, not worrying about, I mean, there are times where like I take the kids to school and I'm like, oh, maybe I should stop and get a treat, or
Mhm.
something. And it was always like anytime I was in the car, that was an opportunity to get a treat or get a drink or
Mhm.
something. And I don't have that anymore.
Mhm.
And so the freedom that I have, with that has been so wonderful. And so really I was doing that meditation and it all clicked because I was really um honest with myself. And it was, one other thing that I thought about during that meditation was eating healthy. And I really enjoy eating healthy. And I
Mhm.
don't think I was ever honest with myself about that because um you shouldn't who enjoys eating healthy? I mean, people enjoy eating treats and they enjoy eating cake and they enjoy
Mhm.
eating ice cream, which I'm not saying I hate, but like if I'm really honest with myself, if I eat a treat, my stomach hurts after. If I,
Mhm.
and then I don't sleep very well. And my digestion is all screwed up and those
Right.
kind of things. And so if I'm really honest, what I feel good after is having a salad and
Mhm.
having, you know, in fact, even nuts. I thought I really like nuts. Well, the next day I had nuts because like you're told your whole life that nuts are good for you. I have
Mhm.
nuts and it was like my stomach hurts, so I don't eat nuts anymore. So it
Mhm.
was really, I got to a point where I became completely open to any idea of what health is for me. So
Mhm.
it was like, okay, everyone says this, everyone says this is good for you. This is what you should eat. And it was like, but that doesn't sit well with me. That doesn't resonate with me.
Mhm.
And so once I was just, I read somewhere that if when you realize that you're nothing and you have everything to learn and everything to gain, that's when changes start really coming.
Right.
And that's kind of the point I got to. I just accepted I have so much to learn. And
Mhm.
I don't know anything about weight, because if you think about it, we're taught our whole lives, eat this, don't eat that. Well, then in a couple of years, eat this, don't eat that, eat this, don't eat that. And that changes throughout our lives. So when I was really honest with what health looks like to me and what I accepted it. And I was like, that's really what I want. That's really how I want to live my life. And Kristen, I lost 7 pounds in 2 weeks. Once I,
Yeah, and you had stalled out. You had not, I
oh,
don't think you had
nothing.
lost any since you had joined.
No, nothing. I think it was, I've been a member. From the time I started listening to your podcast, I listened to your podcast and did the things on my own for about 3 months or so.
Mhm,
And then I
mhm.
think I've been a member since November,
Right.
maybe October, November.
Mhm,
And so nothing, hadn't had any weight loss. And
mhm.
then, yeah, just all of a sudden I went, yep. And then I have a thing where I listen to self-talk and affirmations 3 times a day. Um, and just really am practicing how I talk to myself, and really trying to reprogram my brain. So I'm talking so much. Do you want me to stop for a
Oh,
second?
no, mm-mm. No, this is my dream right here, y'all. This is me to sit and let other people talk. No, I think this is
Oh
it's
God.
so good because I think so tell us about what your day looks like. Like now, what does your day look like? What kinds of things? Because I know there are people who want to hear like, okay, so what are you doing now? Like, how did you lose 7 pounds in 2 weeks? And y'all, so not because she didn't stop eating. I mean,
No.
if you wouldn't mind sharing, like, what does your day look like? And what do you think the pivotal things were for you that, that made that start to happen?
Yeah. So I will say that what I've eaten is not changed at all.
Hmm.
And at all. So that tells you right there.
Hmm.
It's literally all in my head. I learned a lot about on your podcast how you talk about the brain so much, and I learned a lot about the brain and how that. And so I went a little bit further and realized, I heard somewhere, we're all born, um, I heard the brain talked and referred to as a computer. So
Hmm.
I work in computers, so this was very easy for me to kind of resonate with me.
Yeah.
But we all have a blank slate. We're all born blank slate, and our brains don't have any information in them. So everything that we're told um, programs our brain. So if we're told that we're overweight and you're always going to be overweight because your family's overweight, your brain believes that is fact.
Hmm.
Your brain, and for some reason, I knew, this information, but like it never registered that your brain has zero emotions tied to it.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
provide emotions. Your brain has
Yeah.
zero emotion. So when you're getting information in your brain sees it as fact. And the neurons are fired. And what it does is it finds other things to support those facts. So if you say, I can't lose weight, your brain goes, okay, let me go see other situations where you haven't been able to lose weight, or you say that, and it goes, okay, we have this, and this to support it. Yep, we're good, we're safe. As you always say, your brain tries to keep you safe. We're safe, we're not losing weight, perfect, we're right where we need to be. Well, if you change that and you start saying, I lose weight, and this was hard for me because I was like, okay, sure, I'll say that, but I don't really think it. But
Right.
but the more
Yeah.
you
Don't believe
say,
it.
yeah, exactly. The more you say it, then these neurons are created and the pathways are created more.
Hmm.
And so that you do support that, and those
Hmm.
things are supported, and then you believe it, then you actually believe it.
Hmm.
And so that was something that was super valuable to me, was to realize that, again, that emotions are like, if I say I can't lose weight, I go, well, yeah, there was that one time though that I did lose some weight. So actually, maybe I can lose weight, but your brain doesn't do that. Your brain doesn't process that. That's something that we do. So your brain, it's like two different things almost. Your brain and your
Right.
brain are two different things. And so,
Hmm.
your brain goes, okay, this is fact. This is happening. We're going to stay to this. We're going to keep on this. And then that we're going to keep you safe this way. And so,
Right.
my day, to go back to your question that I totally went off on a tangent on, I wake up in the morning, and I actually take my kids to school first thing in the morning, and then I find quiet time sometime in the morning, and sometimes that's right away. Sometimes it's a few hours. Sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's 5. But I make sure to have a few minutes in the morning that I can write my plan for the day, and give myself some positive self-talk. Which something that I learned that I think is beautiful is to think of self-talk as a positive self-talk as a new language. So you're learning, we aren't all born with this innate ability to say, I'm going to have a good day today. I'm going to be successful today. I'm going to see the positive in life. We don't naturally do that. So that's something that we need to learn. And it's like I say, that I thought was so beautiful was that it's like a second language. And so, I studied it. Basically, I studied how to self-talk and how to have positive mindset. And so I do some of those, and then I work my day. I take the breaks, as I've scheduled. It's been amazing to me because I found where I'm like, I will go times where I forget eating. Kristen, I go times where I forget eating. I never in my life thought that would happen. Like, what? I forget eating because that part of my brain is now freed up to
Right.
think about other things. Where I used to obsess about food, now
Right.
I think I'm doing more at my job. I'm like
hmm
doing chores at my house more. I'm being a better mom because I have that brain space that
Right.
the capacity that I was just totally thinking about food. And now it's like
hmm
I write it down in the morning, it's out of my head. I don't have to think about it. And then
hmm
I'm moving on. And another thing that you do that you teach and are really passionate about, that I know why you're passionate about now, is gratitude. And you
hmm
have us write down things that we're grateful for. And I love that so much because it releases these chemicals in your brain that are positive, that we thrive on and that we need. And so when you're thinking of things that you're grateful for and you're bringing these chemicals into your brain, your body loves it and
Yeah.
responds to that and wants more of it. And so
hmm
the more the more positivity and the more good we can bring into our bodies and introduce this good chemical, it's also taking care of that food need, that
Right.
need that we used to get with emotional eating. um
hmm
it's being met in other ways of positive
Right.
talking and positive outlook, and those chemicals are being introduced a different way in your body rather than with a chocolate chip cookie or whatever,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds great right now, but I love a chocolate chip cookie, but I also like, not really, my stomach would hurt, and then
Yeah.
how fun of a night would I have? Not really very fun.
Right.
So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. No, and I think you just made so many really good points, but I think the thing that I like is that you have, like, you kind of know, you've figured out what your secret sauce is, what the thing is that things are that you need. And that's one of the things is I try to present a variety of things, because some things will resonate with people and some things won't. And it's, if something doesn't resonate with you, you don't have to do it.
yeah,
But it's just, you get to pick. It's like, what's going to be the thing that's going to be the game changer for you, that's going to be the thing that's going to set things off. And I mean, I have to say, in most cases, in most cases with people, it usually is gratitude and it's affirmations. And it's having those two things, really committing and dialing in those two processes, and making sure that that you have a journal to write your
yeah,
affirmations in, or you have a journal that does or another portion of your journal that does, where all of your affirmations and your gosh, I can't think. Affirmation, gratitude. I think more than anything else, though, it is, and I think, and I know you and I've talked about this, it's really how we talk about ourselves. What are the things that we are saying to ourselves inside our own head that nobody knows about, that we are saying these things. And that's, in a lot of cases, it's repelling anything good to come to us, because we just keep sending out this incredibly negative energy, and it's this toxicity that nothing can penetrate through. And
yeah,
it's just, we have to deal with the things that we have to deal with. And then that just kind of like brings our guards down and
yeah,
just kind of makes it so it's like, oh, okay, now my my world has the opportunity, my world has the permission to allow those good things to come in.
Yeah.
Where before it was almost like there's a gate up, like, oh, you don't deserve it. Nope, you're not going to get it. And now it's like, well, we have to believe that we deserve it. And we have to allow those walls to come down so we can receive what we really want in our lives.
Yeah. And something that I utilized a lot that you teach is um arguing with yourself, essentially.
Mhm. Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
when
having
a
those
thought-
conversations.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. When a thought comes in your head of like, and I do that every day. Like today, I was, I can't remember what I was doing, but I thought, oh, I want this, and then I was like, no, I don't do this anymore. This is not because
Mhm.
we all have habits too, and as
Right.
emotional eaters, we have so many habits that are revolved around food. And when we get them, and oh, you're sad, and so you think I need to go. If I have a tub of ice cream, I'll feel so much better.
Mhm.
But
Right.
then it's like, no, I don't do that anymore. Ice cream doesn't help.
Right.
And I told this story before, but like, and it's the same with the donut story that you said. Like, I one big aha moment I had was with the bread and butter, where my son was tired and he couldn't sleep. And so I said, well, let me get you a piece of bread and butter, and that'll help you sleep. And then the next night I couldn't sleep, and I found myself in the kitchen getting some bread and butter. Bread and
Mhm.
butter has zero chemicals in it that make you sleep, but it was because in my mind I had programmed and made that habit of eating bread and butter to help you fall asleep. And that
Yeah.
was a big moment for me, because it was like that goes across everything. Ice cream doesn't have anything in it that chemically makes you happy. It's because
Right.
you've assigned it
Mhm.
that chemical.
Mhm.
So yes, that chemical is released, but it's because you have assigned it that chemical.
Right.
So, so there's all of these things like that. I mean, as an emotional eater, I can tell you, I was 270 pounds. My biggest was almost 300 pounds. And I can tell
Mhm.
you that I had plenty of food that had, assignments to it. And
Right.
not just good, but for bad things too. And so really focusing on changing that and my habits
Mhm.
was tough. It was tough. I mean, I'm not going to say this has been an easy process. It's been so challenging, but so rewarding and so worth it, because it's healed so many different areas of my life. So it's
Right.
incredible.
Right. And so on that kind of on that topic, um, d- did you have to have those kind of conversations with yourself to be like, we can get through this? Like, yeah, this is going to be kind of scary. Yeah, we might, I might be afraid of what I'm going to find, but the alternative just isn't even an option anymore.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there were so many times where Um, I was, going through your classroom books, the
Hmm.
the workbooks, and just crying and just like, why did I do this? This is terrible. But like, no, I need to do this. And there were times where it was like, I can't do it.
Right.
And I wanted to give up and just be like, this isn't working for me. Look, I can't even go 1 week, staying
Right.
on track, and I can't do it. And I'm just, why am I even trying it? This is just like everything else. Your old thoughts that they come back, and it was just,
Hmm.
this is such a waste of time, and what am I doing? And these people don't know what they're talking about. And Kristen, Miss Skinny Minnie over there, she doesn't know. I tell Kristen she's the only skinny person I listen to, but when it comes to dieting, or weight, but no, I mean, it was a lot of times where I wanted to give up, and where I wanted to be like, is this even working? Because
Right.
here I am, I can't even go a week, and everyone says trust the process, trust the process. Well, maybe they don't even know, that whole thing, and you do
Right.
argue with yourself, because I think we want to see results so fast, and
Oh yeah.
not just because of the world we live in, but because we're putting forth so much effort that we're
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
why when I signed up for your membership, I literally was like, oh, I'll do it for a month and I'll be fine. Like, I'll
Hmm.
be over this in a month. And
Yep.
when it was a month, and I wasn't like anywhere. I mean, you progress, but it wasn't where I expected to be. I mean, I
Hmm.
was like, what the crap is happening? This is not even worth it. And then it was and now that it's been, what, 4 months, 5 months, and 7 months with the whole thing, I'm like, I'm so glad. And, honestly, I'm glad it's taken a while, because
Mm-hmm.
things that are worth it take time. And that's
Mm-hmm.
how I know that this change is going to be permanent, is that
Mm-hmm.
it didn't happen overnight. And I know that right now how I feel, I will still have struggles. I know that in a week, when my hormones are going crazy, I'm going to really be challenged. I'm going to be like, okay, this is where I'm going to be tested. So I know that. So I can battle that now. I can preemptively say, I just know it's going to be a lifelong thing, but I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for it being, like I say, like the process. I'm so grateful for the process, because
Mm-hmm.
that's how I know it's working. It
Yeah.
took a
Yeah.
long time. If it was something that
Yeah.
happened overnight, I would really be like, is this even going to click? Is this going to stay?
Right. Right. Well, yeah, because it wouldn't seem like it wouldn't seem like it was real, that it was really uh just based in truth and in what,
Yeah.
it's just because we just can't, there's no shortcuts to anything in life.
Yes.
Nothing that's going to actually, nothing that ever is actually going to stay. And one of the things, and I know you've heard me say this, is and for anybody who questions me and my, how bad was my emotional eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all, it was bad.
Yeah.
But did I look like I had a problem? No, not at all. And that
Yeah.
was the problem. The problem was no one else thought that I looked like I had a problem, but inside my own head, and the thoughts that I said and the things that I said to myself
Right.
were horrific.
Yeah.
And the names that I called myself and the things that I said to me, it's like, that was just yeah, unbelievable. But it's and I don't want anyone to ever think that, and because I know for me, it's like, it's not ever going to be over for me. I'm always learning. I'm always continuing to grow. And I'm always having new challenges come up and new things that pop up that make me kind of go, ooh, okay, oh, that's something I need to work on. What I find is that, and I think Sarah can attest to this, and I've always said this is not what I do, and how I help people is not just, it's not a weight loss program. It's like a whole life. It's like a
Yeah.
life program. I mean, this is how you will start looking at your relationships different. You will start looking,
Yeah.
because what you learn is, you learn how to take responsibility for yourself, for your decisions, for everything in your life. It's not about anybody else. It's not about anyone else in your life. It's always going to come back to you. And it's being responsible and accountable to yourself for the decisions that you make, and not blaming anybody else, and not saying, well, somebody brought pizza or somebody brought donuts and those, it's them. No, it's not them. It's,
Yeah.
you've got to own what you are doing, and then understand why you're doing it. And it's not that you're a weak person. It's not that you're broken. It's not that there's anything wrong with you. Your brain just isn't necessarily your best friend all the time. And we get to change that. We get to make it so it does work in alignment with us. But
Yeah.
and anyone, I think anyone in the membership will say this. And those of you who are watching live on my personal profile, you can chime in and talk about this anytime. That I will tell story. I'm very open about things that happen with me and things that happen with me currently. And a lot of my situations, are the things that I'm learning and growing in, are things that have to do with my relationships with people, and about my ability to be able to not be a people pleaser anymore, and to be able to like say, okay, this is what I need, and I'm not just going to go along with things anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's really exciting for me, because that's something that I'm always working on, is how do I become more authentic and true to myself, as opposed to just doing what other people want me to do.
Yeah, for
So
sure, for sure. And
yeah,
I mean, like,
all
even the people pleaser thing, part of, like, if someone brought pizza, you wouldn't want to be rude and say, no, I can't have any pizza.
mm-hmm,
But like, so that it's just all part of the whole thing. And
mm-hmm.
I jokingly said skinny mini. I mean, you are thin. You've worked your butt off to be thin, and you are very athletic and do amazing things. So you deserve it, and you look fantastic, and you work really hard on your emotional eating to get it under
Mm-hmm.
control. And I hope I said it in anger. I do not want to minimize what you have done and been through, because and anyone
Never.
who knows you knows that. And I think that's
Right.
beautiful that you're willing to share
Right.
that story and the
Absolutely.
things that you've been through, and
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
say I have been there.
Yeah.
And I think
And
that's
I
beautiful.
still have things come up, and that's why, it's like I want people to understand that, like, this is something that we always have to be aware of, and we always have to kind of catch ourselves on, and know that that it's a part of, and I think that's really important also. Is so much of what I talk about in the membership is about how we care about how we love ourselves, and that we can't separate ourselves from you. You have to love all of you.
Yeah.
And loving all of you means that even the parts of you that sometimes make the decisions that you wish you didn't make, or your body is not separate from you. So if we nothing will ever change if we come from a place of hate, and we come from a place of anger.
Yeah.
We always want to come from that place of, like, I love all of me, and I love, and even and that doesn't, I love all of me doesn't mean I necessarily want to stay here, but I'm going to love it while I'm here, and I'm going to love myself through all of that, because and like I say, anything that comes from a place of hate is not going to be something that's going to be lasting, and it's not going to stick around. So we
Yeah.
always we work a lot on how we feel about ourselves,
Yeah.
and how we want to build upon that.
Yeah.
So.
Something that I've always kind of said is everyone has a story. Like, you'll
Mhm.
never meet anyone who's like, no, my life has been a walk in the park. Nothing's ever
Right.
happened. Like, no one
Mhm.
will say that. Everyone
Mhm.
has a story. Everyone has some serious things that they've gone through. And I mean, I'll be the first to say, like, I have a good friend who, on the outside, her life looks super easy and super
Mhm.
easygoing, and the things that are hard for her, I'm like, oh, I wish I had that problem,
Mhm.
and I don't say that stuff anymore, because to her that problem feels as big as issues that I have, my
Mhm.
custody battles and abuse and things that I've gone through feel as heavy as those things do to her. And
Mhm.
we can't be angry at the things that we've gone through. We can't be
No.
resentful. We can't be, and this is a hard concept that I had to learn, to be grateful for our trials.
Right.
And of course, while we're in them, it's even harder. But I tell you, I would not be the person that I am today if I did not have abuse, if I didn't have
Right.
to fight tooth and nail for my
Mhm.
children. Like, you
Mhm.
wouldn't even believe. They would not know how much I love, how our
Right.
relationship wouldn't be what it is if we didn't have to go through that together.
Mhm.
So there's always a positive, I feel like, that can come out of a negative situation. And
Mhm.
like, an obstacle can be an opportunity. And that's a
Mhm.
quote that I really love, because we all have things, we all have terrible things, and some of them are really, really hard. And some of them to us feel really hard. And
Mhm.
that's okay. That does
Right.
not make you less of a person or less of an individual, or any less worthy of being loved or loving
Mhm.
yourself,
Mhm.
or breaking free from these emotional eating chains. I mean,
Right.
I literally feel like I was chained to
Mhm.
be by food, like controlled by food. And I didn't, no one deserves that.
Right.
We deserve to be free. We deserve to have love and be confident and be, happy with ourselves and proud of ourselves. So
Right.
is it work? Yeah. Is it worth it? Definitely. And
Yeah.
sometimes, we have to go through those dark paths and those challenges so that
Mhm.
we can come out on the other side, and we can come out feeling better. And I say that kind of on the other side of a very, very, dark path that I unfortunately was on. But when you say the hate thing, I legitimately hated my ex.
Mhm.
Legitimately.
Mhm.
I would wake up every morning. I hate him and I hate my life, and this
Mhm.
is so hard, and I can't afford anything. I mean, I had my power shut off, and we couldn't afford groceries. I mean, I hate this is, da, da, da. And then I was like, the only person I'm hurting is me. He could care less how I feel about him.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
he could care less. And so that's when I started changing. And once I changed that, everything changed. And so I tried to learn that into emotional eating thing, was like, once I change, like, I can't lose weight to I can lose weight story,
Mhm.
then that's when
Mhm.
things will start to change. And that's kind of when they have, for the record, I don't hate him. I wish him the best. He's on his own journey and I wish him the best.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I just want to really validate that everybody's in their own stories,
Yeah.
and I love how you appreciate that and you respect that, and
Mhm.
you're very you're very kind and very loving and supportive in every situation. And I appreciate that. And I want to publicly thank and tell everybody on the podcast, thank you for all the help that you've done for me. You've called me out on things, which
Mhm.
I appreciate. You've made me be accountable for decisions, which I greatly appreciate. You've taught me a lot, and I really couldn't be where I'm at without you. So I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're just amazing. And I appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. I appreciate that. What would you tell anybody who is, right now who's struggling, who's really feeling like I'm not even sure what I need to be doing. Like I'm not sure what to do. What would be your piece of advice having kind of, and again, still in it, still a part of it, but
Yeah.
what would be some advice that you would give people who are feeling that, like I think you described it really well, chained, like controlled by food. Like
Yeah.
what would you say?
Just know you're not alone. Definitely everyone in this group. One thing I really loved, and I will admit when I joined the group, I was a little afraid that I was kind of intimidated, and I was afraid I
Mhm.
would say things and everyone would be like, oh, well, that's because, I don't know what I was expecting. I just was,
Mhm.
I'd say a comment and everyone would be like, we're here for you. We got you, and I have always felt so much love, and like, I really appreciate that. But I think I would just say, like, just stick with it, and keep believing in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, we do. We believe in you for you. You got this,
Mhm. Mhm.
But just if you're not sure where to start, go to the Facebook group that you have, go through those classrooms. If you're ready to take on the next thing, join the membership. Kristen, you have so many amazing tools that help you see where you want to be and help
Mhm.
you realize and accept that part of you that maybe you haven't tapped into yet, to be honest. I
Mhm.
mean, like, that was part of my issue, was like, I kept hearing, like, imagine what you want to be. And I was like, I don't even know really. I mean, like, I had an idea and you and I talked about a few things, and then,
Mhm.
but I don't know that that I was really honest with myself. But that was something that I had to learn to do.
Mhm.
So being really honest with what you want and where you want to be, and what, even if it's so small as you do meal by meal, and one meal is a success, awesome, go with it.
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
that's amazing. Like, be proud that you did that one meal, because I'll tell you what, there were some days that I was like, okay, forget this, and just ate everything in the house,
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
I would go to bed and I'd feel like crap. And then the next morning it was like, I got to start over again. I got to do this. I have to do this. And sometimes it was meal by meal, and sometimes it was hour by hour,
Mhm.
because we are so used to these habits and these things that we formed, that breaking free can be really, really challenging. And that's okay. Don't give yourself a hard time. Don't beat yourself up. Don't, sometimes I see posts where people are like, I'm the worst. I can't believe I overate. And I'm like, honey, we have all been there. We are all the
Mhm.
worst. And I always think, like, would you tell that to your best friend? Like, if
Right.
your best friend was sitting there and they were like, I just overate, I can't believe I did that, would you be like, you're a piece of crap? No, you'd
Mhm.
be like, it's okay. You can get up, dust yourself off, and start over again. Like, there's no limit to how many times you can start over. And there's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. Like,
Right.
you can
Right.
start over a
Exactly.
hundred times a day, and that's just
Mhm.
fine.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story, where you are. And again, your story is continuing.
yeah,
It's a work in progress.
yeah.
But I appreciate your very kind words, as well as just your example that you have set. And again, your positivity in the membership, your positivity in the big group as well. But your positivity in the membership is always so appreciated and so valued. And I know that you've been been yeah, I know you are an inspiration to a lot of people in the membership, as well as people in the big free group. And for anybody who's listening, if you're not a member of the Facebook group, it's Breakthrough Emotional Eating. You just look that up on Facebook. And if you're interested in information about the membership, Kathy, I know you'll be putting that that link in in the um, the post, and we'll have it in the show notes for the podcast as well. So the membership is always open, and it's always something that you can tap into. I think that for anyone who is really serious, and I know sometimes it's scary to think about, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to uncover? And I don't know if I can deal with these things quite yet. And I'm not really sure. You the only way to get to the other side is to go through it. So you
Yeah.
have to go through whatever the thing is. You got to go through it to get to the other side. And so and just knowing the support and the encouragement that you would get from the community is incredible. And so and I think that about both of the communities, both the free group and the membership. So if that's something that you are, have any curiosity about, Kathy will be posting that information in the post, and it'll be on the in the show notes, as well as anyone can send me a message anytime on Facebook and ask me any questions that you have. And we can take it from there. But just know that you're not the only one, and that there's help out there. And you've got lots of sisters who are going through the same thing. And we just are here to support each other. So again, Sarah, thank you so much for
you.
being a guest. And I so appreciate it. And y'all, we will see you next week. Thank you so much for jumping on and joining us, and we will see y'all later. All right, take care. Bye, y'all.
Bye.